everyone, I'm Alicia. I'm on the Hardwired staff, and I'm here to introduce you to John Sticks and Edward Martin. Ed is here in the United States, and John is in Canada, and they're going to introduce themselves, and then we'll move forward from there.
Well, thank you, Alicia. Yeah, first of all, I'm really grateful to be a part of the conversation, and I'm a big fan of Hardwired, so I'm really grateful for what you guys are doing in the world. And I'm also really grateful to be on the phone with the newest country in the world. That's an exciting opportunity in a country of innovation and resilience and energy in all kinds of ways. So I'm really looking forward to helping hopefully advance some of the PPP conversations along with my partner and my colleague, John Sticks here. So just a little bit of quick introduction on myself. My name is Ed Martin, and I spent most of my life inside large Fortune 500 companies. So I spent many years at the Kellogg Company, big cereal company, and then Coca-Cola, which most folks know that name, and as a sort of a global iconic brand. Certainly I'm in South Sudan as well. And then Citigroup, big financial organization, and then Ford Motor Company. And then ultimately the Hershey Company, big chocolate company. And you can't see it because I'm only a head shot from here, but I've carried out 50 pounds of chocolate with me around the world. So unfortunately that didn't go away when I left the job. But over the years, similar to the folks who are perhaps listening to this, they had their day job, and they had an important day job, and they were looking to advance that in the spirit of trying to drive productive results. And if you're on the government side, you're being held accountable to deliver against certain things that the community is looking for. If you're a for-profit company, you're constantly being asked if you're heading in the right direction on profitable growth. So I was in a very, very similar situation, but I also had a desire to try to leverage or unlock my role in those positions to try to have an impact in the world. And so in the early 90s, we ran into something. One of my first partnerships was a really simple one, and sometimes simple ones are really nice because they're just easy to execute. And we'll talk a little bit more about the complex ones on public-private partnerships a little bit later on in the conversation here. But it was a very simple one. If you think about it, most companies, they sell something, it's a product or a service, and they're just trying to figure out how to sell it. And so at the Kellogg Company, we were a big cereal company, and we would always test new breakfast cereals. And so we'd pay a whole bunch of money to advertising agencies and market research agencies, and the agencies would run around and try to find the people to answer questions for us. And so one day I had a group that came to me and said, I really care about school children. I really care about girls' education. I said, okay, that I care about that too. They said, can I have some money, please? And I said, well, I don't really have money to give away because I'm not on that side of the business. But if you can find me 10,000 moms to be willing to eat cereal once a week and then give me their evaluation, do they like it? Do they like the taste? I'll give you the money that I was going to use for my business to drive my business forward, just give it to you. And then we created our first good exchange in the early 90s. And so it became the first kind of look for me in the partnership world. I thought, oh my goodness, I can actually drive more profitable growth and do a better job in my day job in a way that I can fund and lift society at the same time. So these became sort of the framework, this good exchange framework of what we put into play when I took it to Coca-Cola, I took it to Citigroup, Ford Motor Company, all over the world. We would use these kinds of models, including all through Africa. We used them in Kenya, in Nigeria, in South Africa. And these are models where it starts always, if you're in your role now and you ask yourself the question, who else can win when I win? It's a really interesting question because it frames it in a way where it's not a zero-sum game. It's not someone has to lose for you to win or someone's winning and you're losing. It's a really different point of view. And my hope in all of this is we have the opportunity to look at South Sudan and you paint the picture from 10 years from now. And South Sudan is known as one of the leading lights in innovation, new forms of agriculture and technology. and you're sitting on the newest country in the world, but you're also sitting on very, very deep cultural assets and talents and skills and depth and artistry. So I really think you have an amazing opportunity to carve out a space, not only throughout the African continent, but all around the world as a leading partnership example of what can be done. So what I want to do in this small time that we have together is really paint the picture around who we are, why we're here. We're really simply looking at advancing and partnering with the best people in the world who are looking at doing these OmniWins. And so we're excited about that. That's what we do all day long. We do it with the United Nations. We do it with the Nobel Peace Prize. We do it with governments. We do it with entertainment industry, media, etc. So we have all these incredible assets that we bring together to create these OmniWins, and we're excited to do that with you. So just real quickly, that's a little bit about me. We're here now as not just a minute on your screen and then having a conversation tomorrow, but we hope to be just partners along the way now, trying to do these OmniWins together. So we're excited to be with you. And with that, I'll turn it over to John for an introduction. I'm excited that he was able to join us as well. Incredibly successful entrepreneur, but heart of gold, incredible brother, and excited to have him on here as well. So John, thanks for coming along and being a part of this.
No, thank you so much, Ed. What an honor. And Alicia, thank you so much. And what an honor to be, echoing so many of your comments and to just be a part of thinking about the present moment and the future of the newest country in South Sudan and all its citizens is just a true honor for me to be here. And I want to start with that. And so I'm grateful and thankful. A little bit about myself. I get excited about the thought of transformation in general. And whether we're talking about the transformation of a company, an organization, a health system, community, or for that matter, multiple countries, we can also always look back at it. We are the sum of our people. We are the sum result of the condition of our transformation and our alignment. And so for me, at a very early age, I knew that I wanted to be a business leader or an entrepreneur. And back in those days, the entrepreneur term wasn't even really something that I heard too much of. But I tried many different things, and finally, my best friend and I, at a very young age, started a business that really started to take shape. And we ended up building a company in Canada that everyone told us was next to impossible to build. We heard all the reasons why we couldn't, and so many of those. But we persevered, and today we have one of the larger phone and internet telephony companies with our own national infrastructure in Canada. And and through that is really, it's been a tremendous amount of opportunities to be able to look to help others, community, and now be able to impart what I've personally been a part of and learned, in the global community. And one of the key principles that I have found in tech and creation and innovation and generation of prosperity is this alignment that must happen with leaders and everyone involved, this purposeful alignment of intention that creates the sustainable of growth for the entity. And so I'm born in Waterloo, Ontario, Canada. I reside here. I still live here. I have family here, and our national headquarters is here. And a little bit more about me: built the company, wrote a book on the identity of organizations and self and how it creates this alignment. And I've been a part of creating multiple companies, indirectly and directly. I've mentored for one of the largest tech communities in North America for a very long time to help bring people's innovations and dreams to the forefront and to fruition. And I've been involved in child protection in terms of child dignity declaration that was created in Rome. And really, I'm just moving forward with the thoughts of how do I enable, how do I help others be able to realize their dreams that are in their minds, get it out, and create a system and a framework for growth that's sustainable for not only them, but everyone to follow them. And so I want to pour out all of my experience that I've learned in terms of what we've created as a company, what we've been a part of in our hometown now, which is really Silicon Valley of the North and this technology hub that's known around the world. In the last 20 years, we went from a state of where boards were being put up on our downtown core. And now we're seeing that we are, the sought after destination for so many companies around the world. So it is possible. And I'm honored to be here, and I'm here to help in all regards that I can. So thank you.
Yeah, that's great, John. I'm really grateful to have you on. John and I met each other. The Fifth Element Group, which is my current role and company, being a partner there. My title there is one that we made up. We called it Chief Omniwin Officer, and the word Omniwin will be one that I bring up as it relates to public-private partnerships as well. But I had the opportunity to meet John. We created, I think it was the largest one-day single-family office event in the world as it relates to capital. And I think we had families in the room that represented over $1 trillion. Looking
Amazing.
To allocate towards United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And part of that will be really interesting too, in terms of capital investment and how money floats from one place to another. And the market is really interesting now. And that's why I'm excited about South Sudan as well, because people for the last 6 months have stopped just because of COVID-19 and a variety of other things. They've looked up and they've reassessed, and they're trying to figure out how to move their way forward. And that means everything from, their focus and their intentionality and what jobs that they take, but also on their investment capital. So I had an opportunity to meet John at that event, and just immediately thought, oh my goodness, that's a long time brother for me, man. And so we've been now connected, and we've got all kinds of fun things that we're going to be doing together. So thanks, John, on that. What I'd love to do is just sort of transition over to, a broad framework on some of these public-private partnerships, and then a couple of examples. We work with a whole bunch of them, but what we try to do is come up with several that we thought, perhaps if you found them interesting, it's not only an interesting example, but it's something that we could plug you into. So the goal coming out of this is to have the format of this little video here is to roll into obviously our conversations tomorrow, or depending on when you're watching this, or perhaps right after this video, for us to help from an ideal situation is to help advance a couple of different things that folks within your communities might be interested in advancing, if there are any. But we want to commit to you that if there are, a big part of all of this stuff, similar to all of life, is relationship. Everything is relationship in the end. I mean, it's really about people to people. It's really about long-term. We're not really involved in any, what I would say, short-term transactions. We're not interested in those. For us, everything's long-term. Everything's long-term. It's the person, it's the community. Whether we end up engaging 5 years from now, 10, 20, I'm working with people now that I haven't talked to for 15, 20 years. Why? Because it was the relationship that mattered most. And then when something else came up, we are now partnering again. So that's the approach that we have. But what we wanted to do is come with some examples, a framework that Alicia and the Hardwire team are helping to create and lead, and then also some specific examples where if you thought they were interesting, not only conceptually, but you thought they were interesting from a business standpoint, then at least at a minimum, we could help coordinate that with the leaders that we know who run them. And that's sort of the hope for it. So let me start with just the broadest word, the word Omniwin. And I was on the phone yesterday with the executive vice president at SAP. And SAP is one of the largest tech companies in the world. And we were doing this big initiative around the oceans, and the Cousteau family was a very famous family, Jacques Cousteau, and was very big here, and certainly in the United States. I don't know, John, in your world, but yeah.
Very much.
And so we were talking about it. We said, well, you're in almost every country in the world. You have infrastructure plays almost everywhere. what is it that we want to do together? Because we could literally start anywhere, because they're involved in maybe 80% of the business transactions, something like that, in the world. I mean, this is a monster infrastructure SAP play. And they said, well, first of all, I'd like to say, Ed, that I just fell in love with the word OmniWin. I'm going to start using it. So OmniWin is really representative of anybody that you're engaging with in these public-private partnerships. You have to know coming in what the win is for everybody. Otherwise, they stop. They don't work anymore. And it's not only a win for what you're collectively looking at doing. So it might be, hey, how do we develop new economic models in this particular area? And at the same time, move it forward where I am advancing my, my energy company, because I got to double the growth, and that's my day job. And I've got a family to worry about, and I've got to advance this. And on the government side, you might be thinking to yourself, yeah, that's amazing. I definitely want to do that. I definitely want to advance the community, and I want us to have access to energy, and I want peace and stability, and I want jobs, and I want these things. But I also really want to keep doing what I'm doing, and I want to keep in my role. I like running this. I enjoy it. I'm good at it. So the OmniWin concept is one that's been now taken into a lot of the world leading stages, in Davos to Nobel to all these other groups, because it recognizes the very deep understanding that, yes, let's agree, let's sync up on the broadest level of what we all agree and be very clear, because that's what's going to help keep us forward. But we also are very open with the point, like, what's in it for us as it relates to human, like, what's driving us? What's the intention behind? Because if you don't count that part in, if you don't really understand that, there'll be a lot of things that work around the margins that will make this thing fall. And a lot of public-private partnerships don't work, and they're hard work. And if you see a bunch of glossy, glossy examples of public-private partnerships that seemed easy, that's probably not the case. I've been involved in this now 30 years across every sector you can imagine all over the world. None of them are easy. And the thing that makes them successful is this OmniWin component, where people recognize that, look, this is relational. We're in it together. We all need something that fulfills our own personal mission, along with what we want for the community, and we want for our company, and we want for our organization. So OmniWin will be a word that, as we continue the journey together, is one that you'll hear a lot more, not just from me, but from our partners across a number of different areas, because it resonates, and people get, if we're going to engage, if we bring an SAP into South Sudan, they're going to want to know what their OmniWin connection point. Well, okay, well, you're now being able to enter in a market that has incredible growth opportunity with great innovators who you can co-brand with, or something like that. So OmniWin is kind of the broadest view of it. And what I want to do is share a couple of different OmniWin examples from a structure standpoint. And one of them is a really interesting opportunity, and it was something that came out of this idea that, the world's shortages on water, the challenges around energy, and the environmental challenges, along with, different costs and access to energy, and then the ag side. So there's a group that I hope to speak to you about, or one of them anyway. It's called Genesis Global Systems. And maybe, Alicia, what I'll do is I'll pull a couple of these forward, and I'll send them to you, and then in advance people can kind of look at them and get a feeling for them. And Genesis Global was actually, like a lot of interesting things in the world, it was developed in a group around DARPA, which is our Defense Department here. They're always trying to advance new technologies for a variety of reasons, and this one happened to be, like a lot of things, things come out of that, like the internet and GPS and all those things that are commercially available. And one of the things that came out of that is that there's been a technology around for several years now. We work with a group also called the X Prize. And the X Prize is a bunch of big influencers who give $1 million prizes for the best ideas. And so the idea of mining water from the sky has been around for a while. It's just been not necessarily super efficient. And then with Genesis Global Systems, from what we've been able to pull together, now understanding that team and where they're at, it allows water to be pulled from the air in a way that also drives clean energy and also drives impact on the agriculture side. So you can actually grow year round from local fruits and vegetables and a whole variety of seed components. So Genesis Systems .global is one example. Pulled in governments, pulled in brands, pulled in research scientists, pulled in a number of different, pulled in the military, pulled in a number of different groups that they all got together and they said, well, what I find is the omni-win for me on this one is that if I have bases around the world, I'm running out of water. So I can't, like, what am I supposed to do? So I need this thing from the water side. Other people look at it and say, well, I'm a big airline industry and I'm flying out of Africa and I keep having to shift and ship food to places to put on the plane. And then the plane takes the food and then feeds the people and flies them back. Why don't I just grow it from having a hydroponics initiative there so I can actually grow food year round? So from their standpoint, it was more beneficial from a financial standpoint. From the United Nations perspective, they're trying to drive down carbon footprint. So from their standpoint, it's like, wow, if I can develop new forms of clean energy and drive down the carbon footprint. So because of that, everybody's putting money in. Everybody's putting investment in it. Everybody's excited about doing things like that because that's an omni-win. And that's one where I think from a branding standpoint, if we looked at platforms like that, that one or like that, it really could draw the world's attention around South Sudan because it's right now just about to break as it relates to being popularized. And we're looking at some of the sites here in the United States and some other places in the world. But by the very nature of Alicia being kind enough to ask us to have a conversation now, so South Sudan could be a group like that. And again, it's a public-private partnership. It involves governments and industry and academics and entertainment industry and media and the whole mix. But everybody kind of understands what they're getting out of it, and they understand the implications as it relates to society. So that's one example of a public-private partnership that I'd like to advance in conversation when we actually have a live chance to do that. Another one I want to put by you as well it's really an interesting one. It's called Tire Flow. And this one is, there's billions of waste tires. I'm sure you walk by them on your street, but all over the place. When the tires get old, they usually throw them in the river or throw them down a canyon or try to burn them or something like that. Not super helpful, not super useful, and not super valuable as it relates to, okay, you've got this incredibly unlocked resource. And if you look at a waste tire, you usually think it's just trash and you roll it out. So over the last 20, 30 years, governments and nonprofits and other institutions have been trying to figure out, how do I unlock the gold, the value, the significance of what that tire is, that waste tire, and turn it into energy, turn it into carbon black, turn it into something that can be productive on driving capital and cash flow. So we work with a number of companies that now finally after year of tinkering and piloting and spending an enormous amount of money, has gotten down to a point where they've got a vertically integrated system that allows to drive cash flow, new forms of energy, clean energy, and drive impact in a place where it drives ongoing cash flow for communities. And you're not drilling anything new. You're basically, most people will actually pay you to take the tires. So you're basically taking the resource that people are trying to get rid of, and you're making a lot of money out of it. So we're looking at now putting there's a number of plants out there being put up now. But again, we're having a conversation with you now. So I think, hey, wait a minute, South Sudan, that would be a really interesting one because it's such a future looking activation opportunity that it's also an amazing brand opportunity to lift South Sudan. Because it's really interesting in some ways because of such a new country in terms of officially becoming your own nation. And you have such deep roots culturally, from an innovation standpoint, from a resilient standpoint, to be able to take several of these PPPs, these public-private partnerships and these omni-win partnerships, and place them in conjunction with South Sudan, where the businesses there make money, the government is be able to provide what they need to the communities. and then use that as a marker to lift South Sudan in the global sphere, where they're looked at as a leading light and a leading voice in new energy and all the things that the globe is trying to figure out. Because you guys actually have you have an opportunity. Many places who want to do this get crushed by the big machines that don't want this to happen,
Yeah.
because they have so much money put in. They're like, I don't want the new guys to win, because if the new guys win in my marketplace, I lose money. So you're at a place right now where you have the ability to bring in, with less friction, some of these massive innovations that immediately drive financial benefit, but also at the same time, you're in control of your environment, where you can actually set it up in a way where you don't have to go through 2 years of whatever the fight might be to put it up. So those are a couple. I'll share more later, but I want to turn it over to John a little bit for some more thoughts and ideas from him, and then I'll wrap it up here after a couple more examples, and we'll look forward to speaking to you live.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. You know, I love the Omni wins. I love the fact that you're coming at it from a perspective of everyone is winning. You know, the essence of that good deal is that everyone is honored with what benefits themselves as individuals, but also as a collective, and it moves the collective forward. Yeah, it's something that I believe wholeheartedly in, and really at the core of what I've seen that has transformed not only my own business, the community that I reside in, but really any success story that I have been a part of. And because of my experience, mostly in the technology sector, but I do help leaders now globally in creating, I would say, the core alignment and intention that really helps enable these Omni wins to explode really and take grip. Because at the end of the day, and as a country, as a youthful country, and you've been through so much, but you're looking forward to this amazing future that you can have all together. It's this true alignment of intention and getting to that place where you can look at each other and know that, hey, we believe in what we're trying to build. We believe in what we're trying to create together. And then you layer on what Ed's talked about, which is these beautiful omni-win type of strategies and relationships. And really you have I love the word that you used earlier, genesis. And I know you're referencing a company and a product, Ed, but right, this is just this beautiful opportunity for this genesis to occur within South Sudan. And so some of the wins that I've really have seen and, researched and looked at always started with this coming together of an alignment and an intention and creating this unique value system that becomes this framework emotionally from the mind and heart alignment, and then layer on these strategies where everyone wins, like Ed is describing in terms of the omni-win situation, and you have this incredible future of possibility. And so examples on my side, I'll start with my own company quite quickly. We grew very quickly in our own country here in Canada nationally, and acquired market share that really mattered against all odds. But sometimes you don't think about it, that you want to think about growth, and you want to focus on growth, but growth itself can be hard to sustain. And so what we learned was that we grew so fast that even the growth itself created issues inside of our company and organization, and how we were going to keep this together, how we were going to sustain. Did we have dreams of this being a 5 or 10 year company? No, we have dreams of this company being, beyond even our founders' lifetime, so that it can keep creating this prosperity for not only everyone involved in the company, but the community that we reside in and beyond. And so as a company, we hit a bit of a wall. And myself, I also hit a wall where I had to look at thinking about things in our own company and myself differently. And when we looked really inward, as I call it, and looked to create this alignment of intention and a value system between us as leaders, well, boy, did we change as an organization. We were growing so fast that it caused so much internal stress in the organization. But after we made significant changes and created this alignment and really looked to invest in each other so that we all won, omni win, even within the organization, HR concerns dropped 85% in 4 months. We didn't have a conflict that we had to deal with it internally in our company between people in 4 months. Growth went from 9% and finished the year at 50%. And then we started to invest into the dreams of our employees. We went to all of our employees and said, look, if you've dreamt about being an entrepreneur, but you've held that dream down, we want to empower you. And who could have ever predicted that one of those dreams turned out to be a device that would protect kids from online threats around the world, to which would then lead us to being a part of Rome and a declaration to be signed that would help protect children globally. And so when you look to empower other people's dreams and you create this omni-win that betters your own company, you can't help but experience the incredible growth that Ed's talking about. And really, when you look at in communities themselves and how they're growing, I'm living in a community that went from, as I referred to earlier, this sort of downtown core that was boarded up without an understanding of how will this community create prosperity. And what we did as a community is we looked to align the educational system with a new strategy on how we were going to teach entrepreneurs to not only create a framework for how they can bring their idea into a business, but how do we align the core assets of our community with what's being created in the entrepreneurial environment? I.e., if energy is a focus in South Sudan, for instance, how would an incubation hub be created that not only could be educating the youth and inspiring them to look into their hearts and minds for what they can create, but all of the innovations, or the majority of them, are looking at new ways to create sustainable energy, and the entities that are looking to capitalize and on the existing assets that are there in terms of energy could then look to invest in the new technologies. And you're creating this omni-win and education at the same time of the youth, and allowing them to feel empowered to bring their ideas into new innovation entities, be empowered by the existing companies and organizations that are already there. And I can tell you, this will attract international attention and possible investment, because now you are acquiring attention from large tech companies around the world and possibly other governments to say, look what South Sudan has created around a core asset that they have, that they're looking to leverage. But now they've created this dreamscaping incubation innovation hub that is geared around the actual assets that they have in the company. And how can we be a part of that? And so what you could look to then at that point in time is the possibilities of international investment, international partnerships, and exactly what Ed is talking about in terms of these omni-wins. And so what I love to do is I love to be a part of that Genesis, that Genesis perspective. I love to be a part of working with you as leaders to help you find that real spot of alignment, that true intention that you share, because boy, are we much stronger when we're together as opposed to one.
Yeah, well, thanks, John. That's yeah, wow, really synced, not surprisingly, on that. And just to build on that just a little bit, with two other OmniWin partnerships that build into your hub point, because I think it's as a center of gravity where you begin to add into a hub or a destination like that. I think it's a huge draw. And the other part of it, as you mentioned, with your employees, the idea of unlocking the gifts and the talents and continuing to draw that circle wider and wider and wider.
Yes.
Although the OmniWin might start, the public-private partnership and OmniWin might start with, a couple of corporates, and then the government and a nonprofit and a capital company, et cetera. The goal I think the goal for most of the ones that we've seen that have been really successful continue to figure out, how do you draw the inclusive circle larger and larger so it's even more of a win across people who are secondarily connected to it? So going back to John's point on the education and the hub, there are two other companies I wanted to bring up that actually fit really well. One's an African company, comes out of Kenya, called BRIC. It's called BRIC, BRCK, and it was set up in Kenya. It's one of the offline abilities to get free access for Wi-Fi throughout Africa. He's now taken this and moved it throughout a number of different countries in Africa. But the idea of how do you unlock the ability for people to customize how they get access from an online standpoint in the creative ways of Africa, versus a one size fits all kind of like, hey, here you go from the West, and then adopt this, please. So there's models like that, and he's been surrounded by a number of folks from, Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook to a number of others as he's now scaling that. Another one is called D-Light, and D-Light I've worked with before as well. It's also one that started in countries like, they're all throughout Africa now, and as well as India and some others, but it's a really interesting way to drive energy and light and ability for kids to be able to continue to study. And in that particular one, I know they just did a public-private partnership with OPIC, which is our overseas private investment corporation here. It's part of the US government, Ford Foundation, and Citigroup. So if you look at a lot of these companies, they're all trying to figure out, how do I enter into new markets? How do I partner with new markets where maybe it's a new financial product, or they're recognizing that if as kids grow and get expertise in technology, how do I tap the next generation of talent? One of the parts of our company at Fifth Element Group is we work on something called the human element. And the human element is scouring the world for the best talent in the world to connect them with the world's leading companies. And so we place what we call leaders who care. So if everybody has that same, as John was saying, the same intentionality of saying, look, yes, I want to do well. I want to do well for myself and my day job. I want to lift people at the same time. I care about something and I want that to be a part of my journey. So we are very involved in scouring for the best talent in the world. And I have no doubt that there's a significant amount to be found in South Sudan as well. So these are some of those areas where it's both, how do you activate and you move quickly towards the new future that you want to create? So in 10 years, you're seen as, an iconic example of a place around the world that is a bright light for innovation, for hope, for everybody being lifted, and a place where it just draws business to want to understand how you did it. And how they can be a part of it. And I think there's enough, you have enough interest, enough capacity, and you're one of the most, incredibly resilient countries in the world. And I tell you what, a lot of these public-private partnerships and these omni-win deals don't finish because the lack of resilience and the commitment. And you have deep resilience and deep commitment to making things work. It's obviously anybody who spends 15 minutes looking at your amazing country. So that's the piece of it where we hope to bring several of these forward. We probably work with 100 to 200 of these all over the world. We brought a couple of examples out simply because we have a saying. One of my other partners says, nothing is dynamic until it's specific. And so meaning that nothing moves until you get something really clear, and then people either decide to do it or not. So we want to move this from the academic understanding to a very practical, well, okay, these all sound interesting. What do we do? Part of tomorrow as well, and we'll be working with Alicia and Hardwired to put together what's called the ACT framework. And that's a framework when you're looking at your country, when you're looking at your company, when you're looking at your community, how do you put these pieces together to create OmniWin? So it's a broader framework of which these will fit underneath. But we wanted to give you some practical examples of some of the OmniWins that are happening right now that may be appropriate for South Sudan, depending on what you tell us that you want to do. It's really we're here as to hopefully help amplify the thinking and the creativity and the genius and the hope and the desire that you have. And we're just big amplifiers. That's what we love to do. Yeah. We find great people, we come alongside them. And to the degree that people want to create an environment where it's mutually flourishing for themselves, but lifts other people as well, that's our joy. That's the spot that we wake up every day to do. So I know we're coming up on our time here, and we're just really excited to talk to you directly and recognize that both John and I are very committed to being a part of the journey where we can be helpful along the way. So there'll be the moment we have together in terms of our conversation because of the Hardwired team and their leadership to put this together. And then we hope to be helpful throughout the next months and years together, and recognize you have now family, additional family here, one in Canada, one in the United States, to be traveling alongside you together. So again, I want to thank Alicia. I've been I really admire the work that Hardwire is doing. They were one of our seminal groups when I helped lead the State Department's Bold Line initiative around religious freedom and initiatives, and they do an extraordinary job. So thank you, Alicia, for inviting John and I to participate with the incredible leaders in South Sudan.
Yeah, and I just echo everything that Ed has said, and I really look forward to speaking to everyone. And Alicia, thank you so much. I'm really truly honored, and I look forward to creativity, innovation, imagination, and bringing dreams alive.